Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Full Feature Podcast. In this episode, we are doing a completely spoiler-full review of The Boys Season 1 and 2. But before we do that, we have to address that this is our first podcast that has been recorded. So I'm Jack, this is Tiernan, this is Ian. We did record the last one, but we forgot to put the phone on airplane mode. So Tiernan got a call at 17 minutes in. So we've got 17 minutes of fucking nothing.
Look, we're not proud of it.
Yeah.
But it happened.
We just wanted to put faces to the names.
Yeah.
And we had an hour and 30 minutes of content on our Star Wars podcast, which we felt went extremely well.
Would have been a banging
Millennium Falcon.
We had a Millennium Falcon, right?
Would have been a banging podcast to record first, but
Yeah, God, we were so fucking angry. But
you live and you learn.
You live and you learn. So on to The Boys. Actually, no. Let's go straight in some movie news because we
haven't
have
done movie
not
news
done
in quite a while.
movie news in ages. So did you guys? This is a video I'm going to talk to you about. Did you guys see Tom Cruise chilling out on the train?
I did. Yeah,
He
it
was.
was great.
He's recording Mission Impossible 7. This man just doesn't give himself a rest.
No.
He is hell bent on killing himself basically.
Absolutely.
Because he's
a
what?
Scientologist.
He's what, 50?
That guy's he's at least in his 50s.
Yeah, he looks great. He looks great.
He looks fantastic.
But yeah, no, he's just chilling on top of a train. So there was a report that came out today that he's gone from filming on the train to doing an actual car crash. He's done everything. He's jumped out of planes.
He actually strapped himself to a plane in the last one while it took off.
Yeah.
Remember that
insane.
picture of him on the Burj Khalifa?
On the Burj Khalifa,
Like
he's
the
literally...
very
Yeah,
top.
and that was like in fucking 2014.
Yeah, this guy has been doing it. Like, the thing about Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies is these are just like his bread and butter now. And I like, you know what? I've always felt he's got a bit of a hard time because he's never really...
If he was less good looking, he would be considered a better actor.
I think so too.
Well,
he
we
never had
talk-
that like Hollywood
Yeah.
like really good actor, and I think when he
I
did
really
win
like
the
him.
Oscar for Vanilla Sky, he was like, "Well, that's it. I'm just gonna be an action movie guy."
Well, like that, and the fact that we've talked about this on the podcast, it all went downhill with Scientology.
100%. Everyone was like, "Ooh,
After Scientology,
can't give that man an Oscar."
or Eyes Wide Shut, Shutty kind of went downhill after as well.
He's not bad enough.
Maybe there's another conspiracy going
Yeah.
on.
He shouldn't have exposed them. No. Yeah, so he's just constantly trying to kill himself. So that was in the news. What else? There's a Mad Max Furiosa spin-off.
Finally, there's some news on this thing.
And Chris Hemsworth is going to be in it.
I've heard Charlie
He gets all the roles.
Is no
Isn't
longer Furiosa.
Furiosa.
Yeah, who were they looking at casting? I think it was.
Is it Florence Pugh? I feel
It
like
was
could
someone
definitely
younger.
see-
It was
yeah.
definitely someone younger.
I was going to say I would like Florence Pugh.
Yeah,
But
I
I
can
just
see
think
that.
that because of Black Widow, I feel like she's gonna get all of these roles.
Yeah, once she's, it's a bit of a shame. I hate when like you have someone like Florence Pugh who was in like Midsummer and stuff, and like obviously these kind of smaller movies,
Yeah.
and then as soon as they get into the Hollywood world, that's them for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but it might be like a Scarlett Johansson buzz where like she'll go through her blockbusters and come out the other end.
Yeah, and then make her marriage stories on the
And her
in the
Jojo
summers, and
Yeah.
then make her
'Cause, yeah, she's great. She's a fantastic actress.
actress.
Yeah, I'd be very, very happy with her being.
Yeah, I just want
Furiosa.
more Mad Max though. It's
Yeah.
like when Fury Road came out, it was a huge hit, and then
Yeah, it's so weird that they can just run that
There
franchise
was-
into the ground.
And there was huge talks of like we're going to do a trilogy and we're going to have it all because we didn't expect it to go as well as it did, and it was huge. And then it's just been like radio silence.
It's probably because it got nominated for it won 9 Oscars.
It won a silly amount of Oscars.
And like how do you follow that? You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if you're looking at a franchise, you'd be scared to death to follow in Fury Road. Like,
yeah.
Quit
Speaking
while
of
you're ahead.
speaking of Tom Hardy, this is just I'm going to go veer off a little bit here though. But I watched. You guys ever see Locke? I watched that the other day for the first time. It's fucking amazing. You guys should definitely watch it.
Is that the one where he's in the car?
He's in the car for the entire thing. It's only 90 minutes long.
It's
And
supposed to be fucking unreal.
it's incredible. It's just Tom Hardy in a car for the entire thing, and his life is just crumbling apart in the space of 90 minutes, and it's absolutely incredible.
Okay, I'll watch that
Go
tonight.
watch that.
I will watch that tonight. Thinking of that and the next news, he is tipped, well, like not confirmed. but
Heavily
basically,
tipped.
he
Heavily
is James
James
Bond,
Bond, yeah.
which I'm not very happy about because Daniel Craig has won me over so much. I don't know how I feel about this.
I don't either. I think he's old. You know what I mean? And it was the same thing with Idris Elba. The same when that conversation was happening. I was like, he's old, and he even said it himself. And Tom Hardy isn't like a franchise guy. He really isn't. And can you see him committing to 5 James Bond movies?
No.
Like,
I want a young Bond that's inexperienced and fucks up in the first
Yeah.
film. or
I would
something
like to see that. Yeah.
I'd like to see that because it's so like formulaic now at this stage.
Well, it's been
Films.
formulaic for the last
like
60
100
years, and that's the whole point of Bond. So,
Yeah.
are we ever going to get a Bond that like takes a few risks?
Like
I
that-
think
that's it,
Daniel
you know?
Craig, the Daniel Craig ones were the closest things to being
Yeah,
different.
like Casino Royale is great. Quantum of Solace is terrible. Skyfall's great.
Love Skyfall.
Spectre's pretty crap.
Terrible.
It's pretty crap. Yeah, no, you know what, I'm gonna say it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
But I don't think that's on Craig either. I think he
No,
was,
he's
as
a
you
great
say,
James
I
Bond.
think he's a good
It's
Bond.
just
But I
they-
feel like where do they go with these older actors? Because I remember seeing an interview with Roger Moore and like asking why he stepped down from being Bond, and he was like, "I'm here trying to get stuck into Bond girls that are the age of my granddaughter."
Yeah, he was
like,
fully
you know?
aware of like how young.
I mean,
the
like a
women
man
are.
in their 50s can't be this suave kind of person in this day and age
Yeah.
because like people don't appreciate that.
You know,
now.
as well, when Roger Moore was approached for Bond, they were like, "Oh, Sean Connery's just getting a bit old," and he was older than Sean Connery. at the time.
But I mean, like, exactly. There's no longevity in that. I
Yeah.
think that you'll get maybe a trilogy out of Tom Hardy, and I don't think people will really appreciate it.
Well,
Tom,
also
Tom
as well,
Hardy
like-
is very kind of like, you know, those people who get their news from the Lab Bible.
yeah,
He's like
Tom
their
Hardy,
favorite
mate.
actor. Yeah.
He's banging
oh, he's
acting.
brilliant. You ever seen Bronson?
This is the thing.
Is
like,
it Bronson?
Yeah, Bronson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in that.
He's
yeah.
actually really good as Bronson.
Oh, like I mean, Tom Hardy is
He's a great
bit,
actor.
He's a bit of a method actor, and like he takes on roles like in The Revenant and stuff.
I feel like his
So-
accents are very recycled at times.
Yeah,
he,
yeah.
he had kind of like the Johnny Depp syndrome, where like after a few movies, we were all kind of like, all right, well, that's the same accent
Yeah.
as like.
Well, we just watched him in Locke, and he plays a Welshman in it, and he nails the accent.
Nails the
like so,
accent,
he's got all these capabilities, but do I want to? Like, he has the look to Bond and all, but it's like, do I want to see? Also, he's not charming. Like the only thing I thought he was charming in was in Inception. He had that Bond.
well, he has
brilliant
been in like the
veneer.
odd rom com and stuff like.
Yeah, that's really random. Remember he was
know.
in that one with Chris
What's it called? And
Chris
it's-
Pine, the spy one.
The
where it's
spy
like,
one, yeah.
The spy who broke up with me or
Yeah,
whatever,
something
like,
like
and
that.
Reese
And then, like,
Witherspoon's in it.
She just happens to be, or what's it called? Is it the spy who broke up?
It's
with
something
me?
like
But they're both spies.
I
and they're both,
Spy?
like,
Is that what it's
competing.
called?
No,
I
I
Spy?
think that's a whole. I
It's
think
not
that's
like
a
a
game.
Johnny so who would you have as Bond if you could?
I'm telling you now, my first pick. And
Would
it's
you
my
have
pick-
a Bondette?
No, absolutely. But no one wants that. No one wants a Bondette. Like,
I just feel like even if you nailed the Bondette, it just wouldn't go down well in the media.
No,
like
exactly,
everyone
yeah.
would just be naturally against.
I'm not. I'm again. Like I don't. You see, I've never cared about Bond. I
Yeah.
never really cared
I
about it.
wouldn't
Whatever,
give a
do
shit.
whatever you want with the franchise. But the one person I do think fits it perfectly: Richard Madden, Rob Stark from Game of Thrones, and if you watch him in Bodyguard,
He's very
he's
suave.
perfect, and he's got the Scotsman part of it. Bond is a Scotsman, and he really has that.
Yeah,
like,
oh, you fucking
hot
sold me on
Scots-
that. That took about 5 minutes.
He's good.
30 seconds even.
He's,
That's
he's got
really,
the look.
I've been thinking like ever since the questions came out, and I like him just because I think he would be so different and so weird. Like he's probably more suited to Q. But I've always thought Nicholas Holt would be a good one.
You know what? I can see that too.
No.
You know what I mean?
no,
I think
can't
he
do
just.
anything with that
I
one.
think he's like a little kind of freak, but like he'd also be really good.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't
yeah.
know. Imagine him fucking coming out doing the Craig scene where he comes out of
Coming
the
out of
water.
Well, he's in good nick, to be
Yeah.
fair. Before, like in Skins, he was the suave character.
He was the swap
Even though he's a bit of a
character,
psychopath.
And he's
Which,
a bit weird,
so is Bond,
which is- so
arguably.
is Bond, yeah.
He
Briefly
beats
before
people
we,
relentlessly.
before we move on from Bond, though, do you know who was in the running before Daniel Craig? And I remember wanting him to get it.
It's gonna be someone stupid.
It's
like,
going to be someone ridiculous.
someone-
You ready?
give me a movie that they've been in.
If I say the movie, you'll get it straight
Okay,
away. Clive Owen of Children of Men.
He wouldn't have been bad.
I like the idea of him as Bond.
Yeah, he's
the
a
only
great
thing
actor
is,
as well.
he's just a bit scruffy. He's
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
scruffy.
Yeah,
Well,
come
like,
on, mate, shave.
If you
like,
gave him a bit of a shave, cut his hair
Yeah.
a little bit, you could see him as Bond.
He's a bit generic as well. Like you can say that about Daniel Craig as well, I suppose. But I feel like I just want a Bond that's not generic. That's not like the typical handsome man. You know, I kind of want a Bond that's like kind of sexy in a weird way.
Yeah, in a
and
weird
Tom
way.
Hardy's a bit sexy in a weird way. You know, like he is a bit. He's
Yeah,
not
I
like.
can see that.
But
It's delayed anyway for a year.
Yeah,
So,
so we're
that's-
not
that
gonna-
was the second
We're
piece
not
of
even getting the
news.
last
So
Bond anytime soon.
something I want to talk about is something that just came to Netflix, and it is the follow up to one of the best Netflix shows of the last couple of years, in my opinion, which is Haunting on Hill House, and its sequel is The Haunting at Bly Manor. And have you guys started watching it yet?
No.
I didn't even watch the first season.
My sister likes this.
Now
so
that's something
pretty
you
sure.
really should do.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
definitely should watch
Yeah,
the first season.
First season's great.
Unbelievable.
Got a lot
Yeah,
of critical
really good.
acclaim. Mike
Yeah.
Flanagan, as we said, and I told you
Yeah.
I'm a fan of
It's
his.
a
I've seen
small.
his.
The great thing about this series is it's a small story stuck in its own story, and there's not going to be 5 seasons about it.
Yeah.
And Netflix
Yeah.
aren't going to cancel it in 2 seasons
Yeah.
because nothing that they make makes money.
Yeah,
And something that they did really weird and so unbelievably well in Haunting on Hill House that they're actually not doing well in Bly Manor at all is they hired unbelievable child actors, and you never see that in horror. And it's just nice to see like money behind horror.
Yeah,
Because
big time.
Haunted on Hill House, it was well funded, and it was also, like Jack said, very isolated. Had really good character development, which you never see in horror. So even while the horror elements, some of it was very cliche, and some of it was very kind of standard horror trope, it was so well received because at the same time you really cared about the
Yeah.
characters.
By the end of it, you're not watching it for the spooks. You're
watching it for the
feels.
emotions. you want the family to like reconnect and like come
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
and like
Great
I've never,
twist as well.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a great twist in
Yeah.
that. You wouldn't even see it coming.
I don't think I've ever seen that in a horror film except like the only one that actually comes to mind like off the top of my head is Poltergeist is really good kind of family development I think.
Yeah,
And that's like the only one I can think of.
yeah,
And,
yeah. And we're big fans of horror on this podcast.
and we like horror, but Bly Manor on the other hand, it has like the Christian Bale in Ford versus Ferrari syndrome where it had,
what's this, could you?
yeah, it's Americans making
In English.
an English film or show, and they're directing the English kids in just such a way that it's like
The
what
exact same thing
is going
happened
on?
in the second Conjuring. That is set in like
Yeah.
London, and I was like, it was so like an American version of what English people are like.
But I gotta say, like, you just have to watch it and come back with like just the first episode and just come back with your opinion on these kids. Like they walk around and it's a reoccurring almost joke. Like I'm pretty sure it's meant to be a joke, but it's just not funny because it's meant to like it's a scary show. I don't want it to be funny, but they just say splendid
Oh god.
like
Yeah.
every couple of seconds.
I don't know
It's
what I
every
feel
couple
about
of
this.
seconds, and
And
it's
it-
like, is this a joke? Like,
Other than that, how is Bly Manor
you
holding
see, it's an adaptation of Henry James' Turn of the Screw, and I hated that book because I had to study it, and I noticed in the first scene I was like, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, this is the Turn of the Screw, and then they literally go another turn of the screw,
Oh, God.
which to be fair is in the book.
Yeah, okay.
But I was literally like, this is gonna be weak fucking
Yeah,
horror,
yeah.
and the reviews already look like it's pretty weak horror.
I haven't heard many people talking about it either because I saw there was a huge build, but it was like Bly Manor's coming this week and everyone was
Yeah.
buzzed about it, and now it's like no one's talking about it. So
Mm.
it's a pretty good indication if something
The ear
is
is
being
always
done well.
also like really ambiguous, and I hate that about shows. I don't know if you feel the same. I don't like time stamping a TV show. Like I hate seeing iPhones and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I also don't like when you're like, is this the 1800s or,
Or, like,
like
Yeah.
The early
2000s?
1900s.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
And shit like that really bugs me. It's meant to be like a Victorian age novel,
Yeah.
and so it's definitely not
I
that. But
fucking hate when they modernize shit like that.
yeah, they're also like really trying to dramatize the characters, and the main actress who I don't, because I don't have my protective phone on me like with all of the information I could possibly need. I don't know her name. It's just the one who played Nellie Jack from the first season.
Yeah, it's exact. It's
And
it's,
So is it a case where they're using the same cast?
one cast member is the same.
Oh,
it's like
okay,
you're
that's
either American Horror Story or you're not.
Yeah, like
But one cast member being the same, I can forgive it. And she was really well received, and I loved her in the first one. But in this one, she's
not as
like she's meant to be a slightly stronger character, but she does this weird thing. She did this in You as well, where like every time she talks, she'll quiver her lip, as if it's really emotional. And in Haunted on Hill House, I found it real compelling. But in You, I was kind of like, oh, why is she still doing that? And in
It's
this, I'm like, what the fuck is going on with her lip? Like,
it's like her thing.
Yeah.
Maybe she has a twitch and you've just completely humiliated her.
Lambasted her biggest insecurity, but no, she's very overly emotional, and they overly dramatize her in this as well. And like at this point, you kind of like the first one was real like each character represented the stages of grief. And I thought that was deadly, and like you can really dissect that and look into that, and like each character was kind of edgy and like all over the place. Like one was a heroin addict. In this, it's like, oh, splendid, me governor.
Yeah.
Welcome to our haunted manor. And it's like, oh, fucking all right, like. So yeah, I haven't watched the third ep, but I did get through 2.
Well, it's not very encouraging though. I have to say.
I've
for
heard
the same
it's
season.
pretty crap. Oh.
Watch Haunting on Hill House, though. I can't recommend.
I will
it
watch
Yeah,
Haunted
no,
House,
that's
so,
great. Another thing that's delayed is June. That's delayed for a year, and the Batman.
Of course.
So the Batman 2021 is now Batman 2022.
And Robert Pattinson got
COVID.
coronavirus.
But do you know how people are like, oh, like I'm going to a concert next summer, and I'm kind of like, yeah, sure you are, like, and that's why I feel about the Batman.
Yeah, it's
I
like
just
it's
feel
gonna be like
nothing. There was a few new set photos. I'll stick them up here. Pattinson looks unbelievable in the wool suit. But I just feel like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, if they have to keep shutting down the set every couple of weeks.
Well, it's production hell.
Yeah.
So that's another huge thing. Another huge thing is AMC, so one of the biggest television networks and movie theater. They're almost out of money.
Yeah, and the Cineworlds that are potentially shutting down in Ireland as well over this.
I saw that. Yeah, apparently they're gone. Like,
yeah, there's 2 in Dublin, I think.
Isn't there one in like? Oh, I can't think of it off the top.
There's
of my
one
head.
on.
Where's the Cineworld in the north side?
It's on O'Connell Street.
Is it? Yeah.
That's you're dead right. It's on O'Connell Street.
And I walked by the other day, and it's completely boarded up.
Oh
so
no,
that's
sorry. It's is it not the Three Arena? Like right beside the Three Arena,
no,
that big
Odeon.
shopping
That's
centre.
Odeon.
Is that the Odeon?
That's
Yeah, alright,
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
But there is a few, and they're a massive one in the UK. They have tons of locations. But yeah, they're in trouble. I guess that's what happens to a global one. When a global one goes belly up, they're just going to close down their cinemas here.
I have no idea why cinemas are still closed. I don't know why they're not like, we're not serving food, buy your tickets online, go straight into the screen.
And social distancing.
Social distance in the seats.
Yeah, I know.
Why is that?
I'm also wondering though, are
closed?
cinemas kind of thinking, is it even worth opening? Because
apparently Tenet reopening the cinemas, as we all went to go see it in the cinema, apparently that was actually worse because it cost some money to get all the staff back, do the prep.
That's what I'm thinking.
And
it's
then
like,
so it was actually like bad for cinemas.
It costs you to run these films. So I'm wondering, the next few months, are we just? I wonder
what's the direction do you approach with that? Do you just like bring like a 10% of the staff back to just basically herd everyone in? Like,
I think streaming is the future, just like working from home is.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, this could be putting the nail in the coffin for cinemas.
But what I am gonna say, what I expect in the future is, I think that it's gonna be like kind of like records.
Yeah, right. It's like you go for the experience.
I feel like cinema will come back in a way like you'll go and like do a double feature. Or like you'll go and watch a film that's not necessarily at all new. There'll be like a classic section or like a cult section and stuff like that.
And maybe that'll be good because it'll become
a I want.
Yeah,
you know?
it'll be like an event that you're going to.
I did send you guys the footage of the Extravision that some random person had recorded and then put on Twitter.
In the middle of Roscommon somewhere.
Yeah. And you said you'd been to that Extravision.
I had a membership in that Extravision.
Why?
My auntie lives up there, and we were up there for a while, so we were like, all right, I'll just get a membership.
Well, you know what? It just brought me right back.
It's like records, like you said. Like I guarantee,
if you set one up as a novelty,
it's kind of like that cereal place. The media will remember that cereal place in London where it was like serial killers or something. They were serving so much money for like bowls of cereal, and the media was like, these bastards. We could do that. We could be like, yeah, sure, you can like have
rent
this DVD.
Your movie. Yeah.
You can have this DVD for 15 quid a night.
And it's like, oh, that's on Netflix, but you're coming in and getting the popcorn in here.
There is an Instagram story here. But yeah, no, I think that will happen. It won't be Extravision. It'll be like they won't be able to buy the rights or something.
Like whatever. Yeah.
Before we get on to the boys, did you guys watch anything else this week?
I don't think I did. Locke was the main one I watched, it's on Amazon Prime as well. If you guys are looking to watch that,
nice.
And I was going through Amazon's movies. They've got
getting better.
Got a solid selection of films.
Netflix
going
is
on
in
at the
big
moment.
trouble because
Yeah.
they just keep on cancelling everything.
Yeah, and just getting rid of they're relying on their own content. Like, I mean, one thing I'm gonna have a quick rant about. Sorry, on Netflix is this really dumb Nurse Ratched TV show. I only watched. I haven't watched. I only watched 30 minutes of it or so, and even when it was announced,
dog shit.
There's a few problems with it, but the biggest problem is who the fuck thinks Nurse Ratched needs an origin story?
I know.
Nurse Ratched isn't this like evil villain that you find out how she got that way. She's a symbol.
Kind of a bitch.
She's a symbol of the broken mental health system and institutions. And she's just this bitch that works in it.
Yeah.
She's a symbol of it. She's not this, like, driving evil character.
I gotta say, like, from pop culture going into One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I was expecting her to be much worse.
Yeah. Like I mean...
Was that the only one?
Like, there's so many times where my dad has been, like, Nurse Ratched.
Like, it's a common saying. It's like, oh, she's a Nurse Ratched. And you watch the movie and it's like... the institution is what's wrong, not
I
necessarily
actually
her.
thought that she was kind of grand. I was happy when he was like choking her, but at the same time, I didn't think that she was like. I thought I was expecting her to literally be like abusing them and like she's just kind of lobotomizing the odd one, you know?
Which is just what they did back then.
Yeah, that was just like standard practice.
I actually watched a clip recently. It just resurfaced on Twitter there, and it was Jack Nicholson accepting a BAFTA while he was on set of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he's like, they go live to him, and he's like on set, and they're all in the garb, and he's got like Danny DeVito on his arm, and he's like, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't be in the Royal Albert Hall with you," and he is like the slickest guy ever. He's like, "As you can see, I've been institutionalized," and everyone's like, "Ah!" But it was like they were shooting that movie, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's this like film he's gonna do?" And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest comes out and wins like 7 fucking Oscars.
Nice.
I watched a film. I watched a couple of films this week, but one of them stands out. I think I don't want to be too hasty now, but I think it could have broken into my top 10 movies of all time.
Whoa!
And it was recommended to me by Mark, who was on the podcast. But I had heard of it quite a bit, and I had actually studied a bit, but I'd never gotten around to actually getting it off my list. Because like when you're studying film in school, you learn to kind of stay away from some of the recommendations because they're just painful douchebag films, you know. But this one is Paris, Texas by Wim Wenders.
Yeah, you were telling me you're meaning to watch this.
And it is possibly the most like beautifully shot, frame for frame. Is like I remember Mark saying it was like each shot was a picture. This is he couldn't have been more spot on. Like every frame is like a beautiful photograph, and the story itself as well is incredible.
Who directed this?
Wim Wenders. He's like kind of a East German director. He made a lot of kind of old German films back in like when it was still Soviet, but it was on the other side. He loved criticizing like the
Western culture
rather than the East. Well, he did a bit of both. Like I watched a couple of his other films called Wings of Desire, but no, this one was incredible, and it actually is considered a foreign film as well because it's by a German director.
Yeah.
But I can't recommend it enough.
Who's in this? Anyone have
gorgeous.
know in this?
Henry Dean Stanton.
Oh yeah, Henry Dean Stanton. Yeah. Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
I was telling you, if I don't have IMDb in front of me, I can't remember anything. He took a really weird direction in his career because
He
now
was the
he
guy who
plays
was just
like
in everything.
security guard in
Yeah,
Marvel.
yeah. Well, he died a couple of years ago, but that's what his career
Yeah.
was like for the last 20 years. He was
20
just that
years,
guy
yeah.
who was always in things, but you don't really know.
But he was.
who
He was absolutely phenomenal in this, but he didn't even need to be because the direction was so impressive. And this is one of those films that you watch and you're like, how much preparation went into this film? How much vision did the people behind this have that each shot turned out like this? Like even setting up our podcast. That's how difficult it is.
It took a long
know?
time.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, how many people does it take to get each shot looking as incredible as it did? And as like film enthusiasts, you guys should definitely go and watch this like as soon as you can.
I have. You did tell me about this a couple of weeks ago. On a completely different scale for me, I watched 2 terrible Netflix movies.
Why do you do this to yourself?
I don't know. I go through these and I'm like, all I want to watch is something that's really shit. So I watched one's based on a true crime story. It's called Murder Next Door. It's about the Chris Watts
murders.
He's a terrible bastard. He's gonna rot in prison for the rest of his life. But it is a horrible telling of the story. Well, it's fine, but it's just it's more. It's trying to convey emotion. It's showing all these videos that she took. You can do it for yourself. There's 10 times better documentaries on
True crime
YouTube done by
documentaries,
people like us who are just
Yeah.
interested in that kind of thing.
That's because that's the thing. I've seen Chris Watts
Yeah, I've seen it
videos.
before
I've seen a
as
ton
well,
of Chris.
yeah.
I know the entire story from just YouTubers.
Yeah, and Netflix
So when I
is
saw
trying
the
to fucking
Netflix
show you the same thing.
I was just kind of going.
Yeah.
I know the story.
There's a
like,
15-minute video documentary on YouTube, or even like a longer one.
I don't
You
think
want-
I've watched a Netflix documentary since Tiger King.
You know what? You're doing
Yeah.
yourself a favor.
You're doing yourself. a
Like
fucking
I enjoyed
favor, 'cause-
Tiger. Like
Yeah,
don't get me
Tiger
wrong,
King was
Tiger
fun,
King was
but-
lit.
Yeah, but we had a whole podcast about this and how
Yeah.
Netflix lies to you.
Yeah.
There's so many weirdly enough on YouTube. There's so many independent documentary filmmakers who went to Tiger King before Netflix picked it up. So it just shows sometimes you got the right content, you just
Yeah.
don't have the
The
platform.
platform, exactly.
I also watched Lost Girls, which was about the not the Golden State Killer. It was about the Long Island Killer.
Oh,
Yes.
Isn't he still going?
No. It was a doctor in the.
Was this a documentary or was this?
No, this was a like a movie. Not like a movie. It was a fucking movie. Yeah, so I watched that and that was pretty shit as well. It was kind of a bit like it was a true story. Like obviously I feel bad for these people who were murdered, but it wasn't told well.
Yeah.
It was kind of trying to take inspiration from Three Billboards outside
you,
of
that kind of,
Ebbing, Missouri. That kind of like main character is very hard and tough and is putting pressure on the police. So I felt like someone watched that movie and then made this movie.
And then tacked on a
true story
You know what
thing
I thought?
at the front.
I just watched recently rewatched Seven Psychopaths, which is definitely my least favorite Martin McDonagh
100%,
film.
yeah.
Because it's just the worst of his films.
It's not terrible
But
though.
in it, there's a joke about like obviously the main guy, Colin Farrell, is called Marty, and he's a scriptwriter or a screenwriter, and Christopher Walken slags him about having extremely weak female characters. And
No way.
and then
Three Billboards comes
like,
out next.
the strongest female character you can imagine.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So let's get into what we were actually supposed to be talking about because we've been rambling for a bit.
Sure.
So The Boys season 2 ended last Friday. So this is going out next Tuesday. We are recording this on Tuesday. So it's pretty fresh in our heads. So who wants to start? Because this is going to be a good 35 minutes of talking about.
Yeah. So as we said, if you haven't watched The Boys, just don't really stray any further. We might talk just briefly about it, spoiler free.
Yeah, this is full spoiler talk.
But we're gonna get into it.
I've rewatched season 1 recently, so I'm going straight into spoiler talk.
We've talked about it before. If you haven't seen The Boys, just please watch it.
Get on
it.
There's a free
And come
trial.
back and listen.
And come back and listen. Yeah, exactly. So season 2 finished up, and I loved the ending. Personally, I thought it was.
How do you
perfect.
feel about it being done for another year?
Devastated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The second it ended, I literally went, I want more.
No,
because the last time I watched this, I was like, oh fuck, season 2 is coming out in like maybe it was like 9 months.
Yeah.
I was like, they've already filmed. They're filming it. This
it,
isn't starting filming until 2021 March. By
which
the
means
looks
we're
of
not
it.
going to get
which
it
means
until
basically,
2022.
2022.
To be fair,
23.
they did really launch through season 2, and I was surprised it got out so quick because of the quality of it. It didn't skimp out at all.
Yeah, I was very afraid
It's-
that the quality would drop a lot because I was like, okay, pandemic, like they're just rushing this
it
shit
out,
out.
getting it out. Yeah.
But Amazon are the most efficient people ever. Watch the Spurs doc as well. There was a literal global pandemic, and they were filming
While
that,
they were
and
filming
they
it.
edited everything in like real time,
Mm.
and then that just came out really well.
Yeah, and this is like a testament to Amazon. You can tell Amazon are clinging onto this for dear life, because now they've fast tracked the prequel, which we talked about previously, or the spin off, excuse me. But season 2 ends, and kind of weirdly ended. I don't know if you guys agree, in a very neat closed package.
Yeah,
that's what I'm worried about.
With enough that was open for you to keep going from there.
Mm-hmm.
So they did give a bit of finality to season 2.
Like it did feel like that could be
Like when you compare the first season, the very end of the first season, to how that was a full on cliffhanger,
Yeah.
and you didn't know what was going to happen
Well,
next.
the first season basically focuses around the wife.
Yeah, it does.
Everything
yeah,
focuses about the wife, and now
Yeah.
the wife is gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler, but. Like the wife
Jump
is
right
it's
in
like
there.
it's a lovely little package. You could
Yeah.
wrap it up and you could just put it under the Christmas tree right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Because it's great, and there's nothing that they need to do in order to stick the landing. They've stuck the landing, and I'm afraid that they're about to try to do a fucking backflip as well as that.
But
Like.
yeah, like I mean, they've teed it up now. So the big thing about this season that we talked about previously was the introduction of Stormfront.
Yeah.
Love her.
Which was a brilliant character, excellently written.
Aya Cash was unreal.
I was wondering how they were going to deal with her character when, because they made the bold decision to expose that she was a neo-Nazi by the end of the series.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of build. There was a whole investigation into that, and the gang were kind of like working on that in the background. So when they did expose her in this last episode, I kind of figured, how the hell are they going to handle this now? She's a Nazi. Like, where, like, are they going to try and spin this? Or like, oh, it was doctored, it was fake. But no, they were very bold, and they decided to kill off Stormfront in one of the most brutal fucking
Did they?
ways ever.
Did they?
Well, like she's not technically dead.
I think she's gone.
I think that it was more so of they wanted to kind of give someone away. I think that she's still going to be in the picture.
Really?
I don't think that she's going to be herself in the picture. Like, I don't think she's going to grow back limbs.
Well,
or
I
anything
feel
like that.
because Homelander says like she's in a secure location or whatever.
Yeah, but
Like
I mean,
my whole favorite part about when they like fuck her up is when she literally gets reset and is like speaking.
she's
German.
like speaking like a robot.
Like,
almost like
I guarantee you, in the next season, there's going to be such a strange
sexual
sexual
relationship
scene.
with a vegetable Stormfront
a limbless Stormfront
and Homelander.
and Homelander. Like,
Yeah.
But,
Homelander has to be one of the most compelling villains on TV.
I've got
ever.
to say, after this season, I think Homelander is possibly my favorite antagonist of any TV show I've
I
ever
love
watched.
Well, I wanted to talk about how they've handled Homelander in season 2 because I've been reading up a bit about how the comics were handled. So for those of you who don't know, The Boys is essentially a show. It's a comic book that's been since translated into a TV series written by a guy who hated fucking superheroes.
Yeah.
And he always, the whole idea of the comics was that the superheroes were incompetent but also assholes. I noticed the show has definitely made them more evil than incompetent.
Yeah.
And I was even watching how they dealt with, the plane scene in season 1, which is one of the most amazing scenes in a TV show I've ever seen, but where Homelander and Queen Maeve have to save a bunch of people in a crashing plane. They fuck it up, and instead of saving one or two, people will know they fucked it, and Homelander buzzes off. But it's actually, in the comics how they handle this, Homelander goes in, immediately kills somebody by going into the plane. So straight away off the bat, that's bad. Then everyone's like shouting, screaming to like save them, and Queen Maeve is in his ear, and then he screams so loud that he bursts every single person's eardrum on the flight. So it's like, well, these guys are fucked now. So it was more about incompetency in the comic books, whereas like they focused on pure evil in Homelander in this one.
Yeah.
And this season really brought out the pure fucking evil in Homelander.
Like some of the like. They're like fantasies that Homelander has in these, where like even when he has Doppelganger in the first episode, which was it first or second?
It was the first, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was
and that was a great kind of opening you back up to this universe. So obviously you had your man who could regrow his hand, and he was getting these psychopaths who fucking want to chop people up and kill people.
And we said we always love that grimy end of the Boys, where it's like these people
the fetishism,
the fetishism, exactly.
Yeah, and then obviously he's him and Stormfront are like beating the shit into each other and murdering people on the street and like having sex.
I think like
over the dead bodies, like
something that they definitely approach us with as well is like you still get the incompetency side of things with characters like the Deep and stuff like that, but I feel like you'd be very much turned off the show if Homelander was like a babbling
bumbling idiot,
you know. And I also love how they kind of see like you don't have to be incompetent about everything. You can add like the weird kind of sexual side of everyone, like that really kind of weird, because like celebrities have weird sexual sides, like everyone.
It's not even just that. It's like celebrities are strange fucking people, and yet we're given an image of them as normal. Perfect.
Yeah,
they're so down to earth, and then when something weird comes out about them, everyone's shocked and appalled when it's like they're just a person too.
And I think
that's what The Boys does.
It's really cool to see how they kind of approach that they want to just like kind of slander the people with like outside the box fetishism of what a superhero would be like if they were horny, you know, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And it's just such an incredibly like intelligent way to approach it, because like it brings them down, but it brings the level of the show so up.
Yeah.
Whilst not ruining the characters.
And they handle very modern things. We talked about how they handle, the whole corporate end of it. Vodify.
The LGBT relationships, which is just like completely Americans
take more to Queen Maeve with her
role reverse.
A role reverse. Yeah, they don't like two feminine lesbians together. They like a more butch lesbian, and they handle things like that. But what I thought was really interesting was they handled the whole kind of radicalization on the internet thing well with your man in Stormfront.
That scene had me shook.
It was really well done.
That was a fucking mental scene.
And it's because we see a lot of this happen in real life, but also I like this congresswoman as well, who's kind of doing the right thing. Kind of, you know what I mean? But
clearly based off of
AOC. But what I liked about it was, Butcher was still 100% skeptical of her as well. And then they delivered that excellent twist that she's a fucking soup and she's been...
And it all makes sense.
It all just... Yeah, it was a twist that came together and paid off really fucking well.
Because when you look back into it, obviously I watched someone go through it, like... why is it her? Why did that happen? And then you're like, oh, that does make sense. Because I
Yeah.
was like, does that really make sense? And then I was like, I'm not watching it again.
But
So
one thing that I found really good about the show as well is like the whole the corporation side of it, and the whole like commentation on like capitalism and like how kind of like the media works. I feel like over the last like decade or so, shows have gotten real repetitive with that, and they've gotten real like they've recycled the same kind of political points that they're
Yeah.
putting out there. But I think that this approaches it in a way that's very much more about like the issues with like the new pop culture media,
Yeah.
and like the new thing that's in your kid's ear, and like
Yeah, and
more
I'm
so than
so
anything
impressed
else.
because I feel now politics, pop culture, everything is so fast moving.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just my perception of it, but The Boys is able to keep in step with that, and you can tell that through season 2 they just went, we're gonna throw stuff in here that they had to go with the times, and that could come out a mess because you're throwing stuff that's topical in now, but it came out really.
It was very ad-libbed, and I think that like having people like Seth Rogen involved, who's obviously done stand-up comedy, speaks volumes about that, because obviously a stand-up comic has to be very
Relevant.
in line with the time. But like you were saying, it's not only fast-moving like pop culture and politics; it's very meshed.
Yeah, it's
Like-
all one thing.
Like Donald
essentially.
Trump was like a part of pop culture
Yeah,
before he was president.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. Yeah,
And I
100%.
think that they captured that aspect really well as well, because like VOD is essentially a conglomerate very similar to the likes of Disney.
Disney, Marvel,
And like, not only is VOD heavily involved in the kind of political side of the world, it's very involved in like every aspect
media,
of society,
entertainment,
media, and like
influence.
everything.
The
Vodify is
influence
my
they
favorite
have,
one.
yeah.
It's like stream Starlight's new album on Vodify. And you're like, yeah,
And
this is great.
It
the,
paints,
the VOT speakers and all.
Yeah.
That's great. Like, you know.
but it paints VOD as very kind of out there, like everything signed by VOD. But it also really implies that like the real conglomerates of the world, not everything's signed by them. Like stuff that they own, you don't know that they own, and I think that that's very well done at the same time as well. And what they did, what was incredible, because like you mentioned it there, but it was like my favorite scene in the whole series really was when the just random guy wakes up in the morning and you follow his day to
You
day,
follow his day to day.
and how much he consumes media from the second he wakes up to the second he goes to bed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we have that as brash on this side of the water, but I can't imagine there's any escaping the polarized argument of the media in America.
100%. And how it's always constant
Yeah.
one side against the other.
God,
It's,
what
it's a
fucking
constant.
hell.
It's a constant argument. And what I loved about it was Stormfront capitalizes on that. You know, she kind of gets that across to Homelander. It's like people are, you know, I get people angry and they like to hear what I
yeah.
say. People want to be
Yeah,
angry.
it's
and
like
stuff.
it's like when she's literally a fucking Nazi, and she's
Yeah.
like, people like what I say, and
Like what I have
they
to
feel
say.
what I feel, but they
Yeah.
just don't like the word Nazi.
they don't like the word
Yeah.
Nazi.
Well,
exactly,
Nazis
yeah.
invented mass media. Like,
Exactly, you know,
so,
and
I mean,
I mean, it's strange because The Boys operates in this world, because at the end of the day, The Boys is an Amazon series. It's full of high profile actors like Carl Urban and stuff.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's full of this commentary, and I love that about it. It's the one thing I have to give Amazon credit for, because, I mean, not a lot of companies would put money into a show that's going to be critical of their
Of their
Their
own
business
entire
model.
business
That's-
model,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? But that's what it is.
It's like there is an Amazon Music, you know. There's
Exactly,
There's the
yeah.
Amazon Prime, which is this even like is
Yeah.
on like.
Exactly.
The
But he
Bezos
owns the
cannot
Washington.
be touched.
Yeah, he is Homelander.
Yeah, he
He's,
basically
he's,
is that.
he's probably sitting on top of fucking Amazon,
He's on Clock Tower up there.
wanking
yeah.
like
But
Homelander.
but it's like what's his? I can't believe I'm forgetting another name. Ian's the one who's good at names.
Who
Okay?
you talking? Describe him to me.
Gus from Breaking Bad.
Giancarlo.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Esposito.
Yeah. Bezos is him.
It's him.
Accepting
Just
that a
sitting in-
Nazi is representing his company, but knowing that he still can't be touched in
No,
the process.
Exactly. Yeah. I also have another one element I wanted to talk about. It was their development of A Train and the Deep, because
Great.
you know,
Both
A Train
them.
and the Deep are dickheads in season 1. Every soup more or less is a dickhead in season
Yeah.
1. You see division in Queen Maeve. You know, you kind of get a feeling of who's going to be a little bit divided in the first season. And then, you know, obviously they're slowly adding in soups like Kimiko, who are like, you know, good, but and then, you know, you had also like Lamplighter as well, but I really felt they got the division between A Train and the Deep well, because while they're out for themselves, they're also finally becoming aware of how fucked up Vought is in the situation. And so what I loved about A Train as well was him getting involved in the Scientology church. It's it's not
The
Scientology,
Collective.
the Church of the Collective. The Deep buys into it a lot more
Yeah.
than A-Train does.
Frescas.
Yeah, but A-Train is like smart enough to know I can play these guys and get back into the 7. The Deep is too stupid to even see that.
Yeah.
He's not doing the right things. But also what I loved about it as well was that, like, you know, the Deep is on board with it, and then at the end when he doesn't get into the 7, he cracks and he's like, I married that girl who doesn't even give good blowjobs.
blowjobs.
Yeah.
It's a total
And
freak.
he's like, I keep giving you money to be like level 7. He's like, I didn't even laugh when I found out the stuff about like Xenu and the
When we all get
intergalactic
shot up into
Yeah.
space.
Like,
There's so
I
many
fucking hate the
compliments,
taste of Fresca.
Yeah. Also, do you know where the Fresca thing came from?
No, I actually couldn't.
What is a
that-
Fresca? I think it's like a San Pellegrino or something.
That's exactly what it is, right? It is actually
Flavor water.
nothing like, because I thought, you know, at the start of it, it was like he's drugging him or something like that. There's going to be
I
something.
thought
in
it was like a reference to like drink the Kool-Aid.
It's
like.
just an inside joke with somebody who kept drinking Frescas on set, and it's just
Fresca?
one of the producers or one of the, you know, production managers, and they just kept drinking Frescas, and they just threw this joke into it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it. Like, I was like kind of.
I mean, I paid loads of attention to it at the
to the
start.
Frescas, I was like, what's the story with
I was
the
like,
fucking
what's in the
Frescas?
fucking Fresca?
Yeah.
But talking about your point with A-Train and the Deep is, I was telling Tiernan this, we were driving somewhere, and I was like, well, what they need to do with this storyline they're putting the Deep and A-Train on is make it pay off in the end.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, all this character development, like what's going to happen. Obviously he has his like redemption when his low point is him seeing his gills after taking the shrooms.
Singing "You Are Beautiful" by Christina Aguilera.
Yeah. And then like obviously his high point is maybe kind of getting back into the 7.
Yeah.
Don't know what's really happening. But and A-Train had that as well, and his redemption was him giving away the fact that Stormfront is a Nazi.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of redemption in this series. Like even Queen Maeve, obviously her.
When she arrived and she goes, "Hey crowd,"
Yeah.
I was crying.
Crying.
It was an
Like-
excellent payoff. I
Frenchie
have to
just
say.
saying like, "Girls do get it done."
And I love that as well. Was like in that whole scene when it was like, you know, the whole series had been making fun of like this girl power thing and all, and you had the 3 girls, and Frenchie's like, girls do get it done, but it wasn't this cool fight scene. They were
Yeah.
literally sitting there kicking
Yeah.
Stormfront.
Yeah.
It was just them
They were
pushing
booting
it.
their head in, like-
I loved it. I
And-
loved everything
and
about it.
It was so like good to see that joke that they're constantly like everyone's taking the piss out of Marvel for, which is probably the worst scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
For Marvel is the
Yeah.
one point where it's like
broke the reality.
it broke
Yeah.
the reality or whatever, because it's like you haven't used these characters in fucking the whole
At
Yeah.
all.
I
At
was
all,
like, I
like-
was like, this doesn't make up for the fact that you
Made
went,
Iron
like,
Man and
your
Captain-
first
Your
generation.
your first superhero was a Captain Marvel, and she came 20 movies
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
you know, and
you're not redeeming yourself by including this minuscule
it's
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
All you're doing is having everyone in the audience think, "All right, we're watching NBC right now." Like,
I can see I
Yeah.
can see a bunch of like execs in back going, "Oh, we
hit,
did it.
We hit our
Yeah.
diversity
We
targets.
did it.
But the great
we
thing,
saved women's rights.
Yeah.
We ended misogyny.
the great,
Equality.
the great thing about The Boys is, right, so it has these things where it slags off like girls get it done.
But then actually-
in the comics, like Grace Mallory is a man, Stillwell is a man in the
He's a man,
comics.
yeah.
Stormfront is a
is a
man
man,
in
yeah.
the comics, and they're like, no, let's make them women characters. So they have that great dynamic between Homelander and Stillwell. It's fucking great. It's one of the best things about season 1. He blows her brains out at the end, and then she
This
comes
weird
back.
mother
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah, it's
The,
like
the
such-
powerful people in Homelander's lives
Are
Yeah.
women
and that's because he had the absence of a mother.
of a mother in
And,
his life. Yeah.
Butcher's wife does say that. What's her name again? I'm completely forgetting.
Oh,
Rebecca.
Rebecca, yeah,
Rebecca.
yeah.
Rebecca says that to Homelander. He's like, you should understand more than anyone how important it is to have a
important it is
mother.
to have a mother,
And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
he
Yeah.
does. He finds that affinity for powerful women, and it's what kind of brings him into reality. I think it's why he hasn't just destroyed the world at this point. Like
Even like Kimiko is the most powerful member of The Boys, woman as well.
Starlight too.
Starlight, yeah, probably one of the most powerful as well. Queen Maeve.
I have one little bit of a criticism. I don't know if you guys will agree, but I felt Starlight was a little bit underused in season 2, and
Yeah.
I felt
What's her power? Like, how powerful is she?
yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell because like in
She
season
scares.
1,
She scares
was-
Homelander.
Yeah, and like in season 1 as well. Now, to be fair, they gave you so much development, and they were very busy developing Starlight and Huey a lot in season 1, and their whole reason for being in it. I think they took a backseat in season 2. I think they had to because like you even got a bit of development in Frenchie. You got development in Kimiko. Butcher, I felt, was handled really well. I think Butcher was very much the focus of this season, as well as Homelander.
He has his
Stormfront,
low point as well.
You know what I mean? And
like
I'm sure
episode 4 was just like a redemption for everyone.
Yeah, and I think as well, like the jumping off point for season 3 now, I think is going to be great watching Huey being involved in this AOC character's campaign, and I'm really excited to see where that goes because Huey's going to be thinking he's fighting the good fight when he's actually probably going to be part of something.
She must work for Vought, like.
I don't know if it's for Vought or if it's like she's been attached to Vought in the past and that.
Well, obviously she's
geared towards taking down
Vought.
So I mean, there's obviously a reason there. Maybe there's
she was wronged, or
it feels like they're heading towards a villain's path that isn't directly linked to Vought because obviously Homelander was the original villain. Stormfront is now introduced as the villain of this season, which I wasn't. There was a couple of things that I actually wasn't a fan of this season. As much as I thought this was an incredible season, like aspects like I don't think that they should have written Stormfront off just yet. I think that I think it was brave, but I also think like she was an incredible character. I would have
well, as you say, she might not be. I mean,
she might not be.
Season 3, she could be like the centerpiece.
In the comics, like they don't. I'm reading the comics at the moment, so this is also a spoiler for the comics. They're so fucking graphic, and weird, and fucked.
Yeah.
They're fucked. But when the Soups don't die, they can get given more Compound V, and then they turn into like this kind of zombified version of themselves. So it's like Lamplighter in the comics isn't like is like a zombie, and like Starlight has to clean up his shit to get back into the 7.
But I do think like what they're also trying to do, by the looks of it, from Stillwell and Stormfront, is they're trying to arc Homelander in a direction that's going to basically be mass mania.
Yeah.
And I think that they're setting up like the Daenerys Targaryen complex.
Where it's like
a lot more obviously than Game of Thrones did. Of course, they're making it very clear that he's slowly snapping. Like he's really like one other woman in his life dying to just like going off.
And what I loved about it as well was the dynamic with Stormfront when she has this like white supremacy element and stuff, and like Homelander, you get the impression, doesn't really care about that.
He didn't think that
but
at all.
He's going along with it because she's calling the shots.
He actually looked a bit uncomfortable.
There's so many memes of like Homelander may be like a homicidal maniac, but like when you're saying it's white genocide, he's just like, all right.
He's like, all right. But another thing that I was really disappointed with, I think he's going to agree as well. I thought it was funny because it was kind of a parody. Like I feel like this show, it is a parody in many ways of a lot of elements that like of what DC and Marvel did, but I think sometimes it needs to cop that on a bit, like the Almond Joy.
Yeah.
Like so, that is a very much like an obvious pointing the finger at like old DC heroes because old DC heroes, they always had the worst vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Like Superman obviously has a green rock. Which is actually alright, I think.
I've never thought that was that bad.
Compared to the other ones. So, Martian Manhunter is literally just fire.
Yeah.
So, like, a matchbook can kill him, I mean, there's actually a joke about that where Batman first finds out who Martian Manhunter is.
Yeah, they all have to have one chink in the armor, and it's this very specific one.
Yeah, because they're all actually very overpowered as heroes compared to Marvel. But Batman literally finds out who Martian Manhunter is and says, the other alien on this planet, it takes a $3 billion rock to kill him.
Yeah.
Yours is a 99-cent matchbook,
Yeah.
Green Lantern, the original Green Lantern, was killed by Timber, and specifically Timber. And then Wonder Woman's, which is my favorite, but this is obviously a product of the era, her weakness was if she is reprimanded or bound by a man.
Oh my god.
So basically, if a man puts her in handcuffs,
she's screwed.
That's her. Like that's her gonna.
So your common cop can stop Wonder Woman, like.
But I do think that obviously that's a funny kind of parody of that with Black Noir, but at the same time, it was just he was disappointing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and we were getting excited about Black Noir earlier on in the season. Yeah. I mean, we talked about that episode where he's staking out Butcher's auntie's house, and we wanted to see a lot more.
And we thought it was disappointing. Yeah. And I thought the opening scene where he was handling the terrorists was a bit that was a bit underwhelming as well. I thought that it was kind of just him walking.
He better be back. That's all I'll say.
It was kind of him walking through getting shot. Like he is alive. They say that he's a bit like catatonic.
Yeah, he's in like what's that word where you're like you're in something shock, like
anaphylactic shock.
Anaphylactic shock. Yeah.
Like so, I think that he will be back, but at the same time, like in one of the scenes, in one of the following scenes, they were literally preparing like an Almond Joy gun to go and use on him. So like, I mean,
it's a bit on the nose. I will agree with that.
I don't know how much of an issue that's going to be, but again, like we were saying, I do feel there was aspects of this that, while I don't think it was rushed, I thought that they handled it extremely well because of the pandemic. I do think that might have been a pandemic thing where they were like, the action scenes might have to be a little more toned down,
and they definitely were in this season
compared to the other season.
Yeah.
And I also thought like them kicking Stormfront's head in, like, that's for effect. But there was other scenes that might have just been a budgetary thing too.
Yeah, I also think as well, the thing about season 2 was, and it's not necessarily criticism, but it was 8 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
An episode here too, I don't think would have gone amiss because they've clearly shown that character development is what they want to do, but you have a ton of characters and you have a ton of stories to tell there. And like, as I said to you guys, one of my favorite things about this season was A-Train the Deep. I want to see more of that.
Yeah.
I really want to see more of that dynamic. And I thought A-Train would actually be a little bit more. And I wanted to see him and Starlight's kind of like tension between them a little bit brought forward. Because I think the A-Train is a total like narcissist, like egomaniac, but also he's not evil. He's not pure evil. Like,
he's an athlete.
He's an athlete.
You
exactly.
know? I mean, he's like the perfect egomaniac athlete. Like he's like a Michael Jordan or
exactly.
What do you guys think of Ryan for the series?
Who?
Rebecca's child and Homelander's child.
Oh, you know what?
I hope he's back under Butcher's protection for the whole thing. I think that's an avenue that they're throwing away.
I think they're going to do a lot of tension between him and Butcher. You know, how is Butcher going to...
I thought Butcher was going to fucking
Butcher
kill
gave
him.
the away.
Yeah, well, how is Butcher... Yeah, but if, you know, they're going to cross paths again. How is Butcher going to deal with the fact that he killed the woman he loved, but it's also his mother, and he's going to blame himself for that? And he doesn't think he's a bad kid, obviously. And I love that about Butcher. And what I love about Butcher as well is, like, he's a man who, like, they gave him a bit of, like, a soft side in this. Which he's always had a bit, but they really gave it to him this time, and they've just taken it away now, and now he's just gone back to doing his job now at the end, where he walks off and he's probably going to be part of this new soup task force set up by the CIA. But like, I feel like that was going to be a serious area of tension in the future, but I think it's going to be farther down the line. I think like, it'll be something they'll bring. He might be an angsty teenager in the next few years.
I just hope that it is something like what I would have loved, because it just would have completely gone against the grain of like what's expected from the show. If like the start of next season was him and Butcher having like a happy family life where he's like this single dad like cooking for him,
and then it gets ripped from,
and then it just gets like they get like torn apart, that kind of business, because it would just change it up a bit. Like, I don't overly, I want them to be in the same vicinity, but I also want to skip the part where there's like this tension and they're kind of like arseholes to each other.
I think that is going to be the route, though.
I think it is, but it's definitely the expected route, and hopefully it kind of goes against that a bit.
I don't know how you will feel about this, but the one thing that was not annoying me, and it's actually a compliment to the show, but I felt myself getting too attached to the characters. So in the last episode there, when I thought Mother's Milk might die or Frenchie, I was like, I don't want any of these guys to die.
When they flip here's one thing that, like, obviously I'm not the type of person who'll pick on this shit, but remember when in the psychiatric hospital episode when the van flipped and Huey got like basically like half of him cut out, and then Stormfront flings a car halfway across the universe, and like they all get out. I thought Mother's Milk was going to be dead there because they set him up a bit to die.
They did set him up to die, big time.
I'm happy that he didn't, because I said earlier on in the season, I was like, he's set up to die. So I am happy that they didn't actually go ahead and do the obvious.
Someone's dying though.
He got to get back to his kids, you know.
There's like, it's always the person with the fucking kids who dies in these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except for like Hawkeye.
Except for Hawkeye, I was just thinking that
they set that up so much in Marvel. And never
it's like, you didn't have the balls.
I feel like if Days of Future Past didn't have a Quicksilver,
Hawkeye would have 100%.
So they've actually cast Soldier Boy. So he's mentioned a couple of times in the series, especially like in World War II, and it's like when Soldier Boy was killing Nazis. So they've cast Jensen Ackles, Soldier Boy.
Has he been in anything, Jensen Ackles?
He is that guy that you know. I'll put a photo in for people who are listening online. But yeah, look at him here.
Oh, he was in
Supernatural?
Supernatural, that's right. He was in Supernatural.
So he's that guy He's in the TV programs.
Yeah.
And he made like a couple of appearances on Buffy the Vampire, I'm going to say as
Yeah,
well.
well, you know, like they do
They bring
these
the best
castings.
out of these actors because Anthony Starr is fucking amazing
Incredible.
in this.
And he's not really. I don't think
he's
he's
not
been
a
in
big
anything.
actor.
No, and like even with Lamplighter, when they brought him in, and the actor who plays him, I can't remember his name, but I remember seeing him in that stupid movie Frozen, where they're stuck on the fucking ski chairlift.
It's
For
Sean
Twilight.
something.
Yeah, Sean. Anyway, I thought he was quite good, and you know,
Ashmore.
Sean Ashmore, and you know, he's not a huge actor. I don't know his competency.
But even
But I thought they handled him very well. His character is complex. You know, he was in it for a couple of episodes. But
even
there's-
Billy Joel Osmond, I thought he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was great.
Uh,
And to bring him back for just one episode.
Haley
was
Joel.
amazing.
Haley Joel,
Yeah.
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel. Billy Joel's also in this.
Billy Joel is in this a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why am I filming this
Yeah.
without my phone?
And also, did you think the Haley Joel Osment whole joke about him being Mesmer
Hilarious.
was a bit of a nod to as well the fact that he was a kid star?
Yeah,
and so
100%.
was,
Yeah, yeah.
so was Haley Joel.
He basically
Osment, like-
says, "I see dead people," in it, like, you know. But I had something there. What was I gonna say? Fucking hell, I'm after.
Well, look, here's a question, and Jack, you asked this before as well earlier on in the season. Where do you think is the jumping off point for season 3 then of The Boys?
As you mean, like, where is it going to
Where's it
start?
going to go? And yeah, where do you think is it a general direction they'll take with the next season?
I think I think the next season is building up for Homelander to go absolutely fucking batshit and for things to get out of hand. And this is how they need to handle it. They need to handle it where it's believable for him to
They
jump
can't jump the
gun.
shark. Yeah.
You know, they can't jump the shark. They can't pull a Fonzie and jump the shark there and just have it like, this is unbelievable. I've pulled out of this completely. Like, so I feel like they need to have Homelander have more of kind of like these fantasies like he did when he was just going to murder all those people.
Yeah.
He needs someone else in his life to die, like you were saying as
Yeah.
well. But I don't know who that's going to be because they've already like he killed basically his mother slash
And
lover.
his father in the last episode
His
died,
father,
essentially.
yeah. He killed his like new girlfriend, wife, kind of lover. So I don't know where they're gonna go with this.
And Rebecca's dead.
And Rebecca's dead as
too,
well.
yeah.
Possibly his son, but
Yeah.
I don't even feel like he's that into him. But he kind of just wants him to kind of be.
Yeah.
Not,
He wants
not-
another him, like.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
One thing that I would love to see is, this is just kind of like I doubt this will happen, but I'd love to see if there was like a journalist who was really out to like expose what Homelander's actually like, and the boys and like Starlight and all are trying to stop the
Protect
journalist
from
rather than to stop him from exposing Homelander what he's actually like, because like he said in the last
He'll go
episode,
berserk.
fucking
and-
kill
he
everyone.
literally, like, his line to Queen Maeve was, "If you release that footage,
I will kill
everyone and
everything.
everything."
And she's
Yeah.
like, I know, like
Yeah.
she fully knows he's able to do that.
So what I'd love like, instead of trying to expose Homelander, they're actually trying to kind of prevent him from being exposed. Either members of the Seven or the boys themselves.
Yeah.
I'd like to see something different like that. Rather than like taking down Vought, it's more like, alright, like we have Starlight in there, we know Queen Maeve and like A-Train and stuff, they're actually not that bad. I'd like to see a different approach to it a bit, like almost trying to stop Homelander from setting off rather than...
Yeah, I think we're going to get a bit of a case of everyone's off doing their own thing. It's going to be a little bit of a
I
clean
think
slate.
that too as well.
I think you're going to have Huey working on this campaign, and he doesn't want anything to do with the boys. I think Starlight's probably shelved her powers for the time being. Butcher is just working on soups. Frenchie's living with Kimiko in some German techno
Damn,
club.
like-
Mother's Milk is back with his kids, and you're gonna have that Rick and Morty fucking moment. You son of a bitch! I'm in. I
yeah.
think you're gonna have that building up, which I think they're gonna try and emulate the first season a bit as well, where it's like we need to get the boys back together. I think that's gonna be the crux of it. And I think while Homelander is gonna take main stage, I think they're gonna shelve Stormfront as a backing baddie that they might bring back later on.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at this Congresswoman now with the superpowers.
How many series do you think we're looking at?
I hope around 5 or 6. I would be satisfied with around that, I think.
I know, but it's going to take so long.
Do you think
know.
that television at the minute is because like television like not like a decade ago was so kind of like 20 episode a season and that was an awful thing? Do you think that they're so afraid to go ahead and do enough episodes to flesh everything else? Like I feel like a lot of TV shows, and I'm saying this mainly because of Game of Thrones, feels like pressured not to stretch it out.
I think there's definitely been a focus on people's attention spans don't last that long. There's also a focus on there's not this weekly thing where it's like we can run this show for 20 weeks.
Yeah.
You don't have that schedule anymore. Netflix release things all at once. Now Amazon made the decision to do a weekly thing of this.
Backlash.
But if you did 20 episodes of The Boys, I don't think people would subscribe for 20 weeks of
No.
The Boys.
No, me neither.
So I think there's probably not so much pressure on them to do it, but there's probably a little bit of pressure on no filler episodes. There's no such thing as a filler episode. You refine the
there
writing
is no such thing.
and
as
get
a
it. And
filler
because
episode.
even shows like Breaking Bad had filler episodes.
The
even
Fly
though-
comes
The
to
Fly,
mind.
which is
even though it's not really a filler episode, it's kind of got a bigger backstory to it.
Extremely integral, I think.
Yeah, and there's
But-
also
but-
some major character development between Jesse and
But that's what
Walt's
you need
there.
filler episodes for. This is what I mean. I'm not saying that like I don't want 20 episodes. I don't even want like 13, 14 episodes. But at the same time, the fact that Game of Thrones felt like they had to make the decision to
Well,
end
I
it.
think Game of Thrones became this beast that they didn't know what to do with. I think The Boys is a very different show. While it has high production values, I think they can have an overarching plan to end it
Yeah,
in 6
but they-
seasons. Game of Thrones, they didn't know what they were doing.
But I mean, like Game of Thrones had a direction.
It
that,
had a
like-
general direction, but I think The Boys has already deviated from the source material enough
which
that
is
they're able to handle.
which is like one of the only times it's actually worked.
Yeah.
One
yeah.
of my favorite episodes of TV of all time is Pine Barrens, and that's a filler episode from The Sopranos.
Okay.
And like filler episodes need to come back. I feel.
But
Not when there's only 10
that's what I mean.
episodes,
What,
though.
what I'm saying is that like say Sopranos, say Game of Thrones, they had so many characters. And The Boys, compared to other shows, like Breaking Bad didn't have that many characters. Other great shows at the minute don't have that many characters. But The Boys has a lot of characters, and that's why I'm comparing it to Game of Thrones. I don't want them to get bogged down on this 8 episode shit. Like, look, if you need to develop, if you need to flesh out a character, if you need to spend a character where it's literally just like A-Train sitting at home,
Well,
like, do it.
Well, yeah, I know, and like the thing about it is the reason I don't think it would be that necessary is because the last episode was an hour and 10 minutes, so they'll have a bit of.
Well, they are
breathing room
doing
as
that,
well.
yeah.
They're gonna have a bit of breathing room there. If you need to make an hour and a half long episode as your season finale, you're going to be allowed to do that. You know what I mean? They won't
Game
have
of
an issue
Thrones
to do
did
that.
that.
We don't talk about
you
that.
can put an hour and 10 minutes on as much things as you like,
Look,
but it might
and,
not.
like,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones was the first HBO show that really just fucked it. HBO has been consistently good. Amazon, I think, no, I'm trusting.
Well,
the showrunners
let's
to this.
like not be too harsh now. The first 6 seasons of Game of
They're
Thrones
perfect.
is possibly the best television in
Yeah.
history. So we won't say they fucked it, but yeah, definitely. I feel like saying that they wanted to finish that off in 13 episodes.
It's just
That just scares me for other
Well, they
shows.
wanted. There was a big issue behind that. Is that, like HBO wanted 2 more seasons, and then they got
HBO
something
wanted
with
10.
Star Wars.
George
Disney
R. R.
Disney
George R. R.
did
wanted
basically.
12.
yeah.
And David and Dan were like, we've been at this a decade.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not doing it
Also, the
anymore.
actors have been at it for a decade.
Yeah,
That's
the
true.
actors were like, I need out. Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is my
Yeah.
this is my career is gone.
it's
like
gone,
that's
like,
it.
yeah.
All of my 20s is gone.
It's gone, yeah,
you
which
know?
is crazy.
Fair enough, but like
no.
it's not like you're getting
You're-
any other fucking jobs.
You're paid handsomely for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's an hour. Let's wrap it up with ratings for the second season. Do you think it's better than the first?
I think I enjoyed season 2 a little bit more than season 1. I loved season 1, but I just loved that they took added elements. They kept all the elements in season 1 that I liked and added new ones, and they just improved on it. If you ask me, perfect second season.
I thought Homelander was so much better this season, and he's my favorite character.
He's so good.
I think they really flexed him this season, and it makes it it was the best follow up season that I can think of off the top of my
Yeah, I
head.
think this is the perfect second season of all time because most of the time they're big crap.
They're a
Yeah,
big
second
shit,
seasons
yeah.
are always
Yeah,
a
second seasons are
always a
crap.
test.
And we were
the
only
best.
saying this about Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy, yeah, exactly.
And the fucking Haunted in Hill House.
Yeah.
So on that note, what are we gonna do next week? Spooky time because it is Halloween.
Spooky,
So
scary,
I want to do I'm gonna do some classics. I want to do some moderns. I want to do some hidden gems as well.
Yeah, and guys, tell us yourselves if you guys have any movies that we want to talk about, any classic horrors, any new horror movies that you guys want to talk about. We've clearly been fans of. We talked about more obscure horror movies in the past,
Yeah.
but we're probably gonna get down to the nitty gritties,
The cult
the
ones.
cult
Yeah.
ones. The ones that everybody's seen.
We'll probably do 2 episodes on it because no one's going trick or treating.
And we may be in costume.
Yeah, I am thinking of dressing up for this. But yeah, on that note, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is now being filmed.
And ring
give us a
that bell.
Yeah. Everything
Gotta
else.
say that every
Every
time.
time.
Please follow us on Spotify. You'll find our podcast everywhere. There's a link tree in our bio. And
We regularly post on Instagram.
We're also looking at getting our TikTok account going for all
Yeah.
you Gen Zs out there.
Nay.
It's just going to be us dabbing.
The WAP.
So keep an eye out for that, guys. You'll see lots of clips of the podcast coming up. And as Jack said, as usual, follow us on all our social media, our Instagram. You can get us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on pretty much every platform at this stage.
Yeah.
And tell us what you think of the studio, guys, and how you think filming is going, and leave a comment on the YouTube videos that are going up as well.
And you're welcome to send us merch.
Yes. We will see you next week.
See you guys.
You know.